In today's video, I want to address one of the questions that I get asked more often than literally anything. And that question is, how much is it actually going to cost me to take a trip to Disney World? So I thought today the easiest way to do it would be to break down how I budget, what I budget for, and exactly how much money I have spent in our past 2 trips and our upcoming single trip. And kind of go into all the various factors that go into that. Because, of course, things like time of year, hotel that you choose, the different add-ons and special tickets and things like that are going to affect how much you actually spend. So, like I said, let's kind of break it down into the things that I budget for, the different categories. And then we'll go, like I said, step by step through 3 of our most recent trips or upcoming trip and break down exactly how much money we spend. That way, hopefully it'll help you to think about your trips and planning and budgeting and all of the things that go into it, and kind of slide in some of the ways that we save money as much as we can when we do travel. So the areas that I budget for specifically are travel. For us, since we usually drive from South Carolina, we spend about $150 on gas. You'll see in one of the trips that I'm going to talk about that we're actually going to fly, and just why it is so much more cost effective for us to drive. Yes, the drive sucks. It's about 9 hours with just a couple of stops, 10 hours if there's a lot of stops or bad traffic, but the cost savings for us are just too much to pass up. The second thing that we budget for is the resort itself. So how much our actual hotel cost is going to be. Third is tickets. So for us, we are annual pass holders. So occasionally that means renewal. On one of the trips, you'll see that we actually had, because our kids' annual passes had expired, we were upgrading them from the 5-day multi-day ticket to, or I think it was a 3-day, I can't remember, to their annual passes. And also I include in here any special events, special ticketed events, if we're going to do a dessert party, if we're going to do a tour or an after hours party or something like that, that's the part of the budget that I include that in. The next thing that we budget for is food and souvenirs. We're not huge souvenir people. I mean, obviously ears, and like a couple of trinkets, toys here and there, but we're just in general not huge souvenir people. We are big food people, but even in that, I'll kind of talk about the ways that we try to shave down as much as we can on the food cost, because it's a theme park and theme park food is just expensive. And then the last thing is a relatively new thing that I'm budgeting for, and that's Genie Plus. That is if you're unaware, the added Fast Pass. It used to be called Fast Pass in the past as a ticket holder, any type of ticket holder. You could get 3 Fast Pass, which is their bypass the standard queue line thing. Most theme parks have it in some form or another. But you used to be able to make 3 Fast Pass selections complimentary with each day that you held a ticket for. Of course, there were some on-site perks. You could book them way ahead of time if you were staying in a Disney resort versus staying off a Disney resort, etc. But now that has changed to a paid system, where if you want to get into what they now call the Lightning Lane, you use Genie Plus, and that will allow you to make multiple Lightning Lane, what's the word I'm looking for, bookings throughout the day. There's a bunch of information that goes into Lightning Lane, a bunch of information that goes into Genie Plus that I'm not going to go into in this video because this is more about money. However, just know that ahead of time, it will cost you $15 per person in your party to book these Genie Plus attractions. And that in addition to your typical Genie Plus, which gets you a whole list of attractions in each park, there are 2, occasionally 1, depending on what kind of promotion they're running at the time, extra attractions that cost you above and beyond that. So for example, in Hollywood Studios, Rise of the Resistance is one of those extra paid attractions. So we are now having to factor that into our budget to decide whether or not we're going to utilize that service. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about the different areas that I budget for, let's talk about actual real life money. And I'm going to put some graphics up here on the screen. And if you see me look down, it's just because I can't hold it all in my head. So I've got it written down in my little book right here. So the first trip I'm going to talk about was for the 50th anniversary trip. We went down on September 30th, stayed through October 3rd. It was 3 nights. We specifically chose on this trip to stay at the Contemporary. And while we had to pay rack rate, which is ridiculous, but we did it because we knew it was going to be crazy. We wanted easy access to Magic Kingdom. We planned this 2 years ahead. We had plenty of time to save up for this specific trip. So here, and again, I'm looking down, so I apologize, but the resort cost us $2,324 for 3 nights. So that averages to a little bit over $700 a night. And this was, again, for 3 nights in a studio room at the Contemporary with a lake view. Theme park view would have been more expensive. Actually, they were not even available for us to book, so there you go. Travel, as I said, was $150. That it's going to go up and down with gas prices, but it always averages out to about $150. I drive a fairly typical smallish SUV. I get 23, 24 miles a gallon regular. Sometimes it gets up to 26, 27 on the highway. So, I mean, I get fairly good gas mileage for the kind of car that I have. But again, it averages to about $150 every trip. For tickets, this is the trip that I was talking about that my kids didn't have annual passes. During the pandemic, during the pandemic closure, our kids' annual passes expired and we chose not to renew them at that time. And ours didn't. My husband and I's didn't. They were actually extended for months and months because Disney ran promotions for annual pass holders who obviously weren't able to use their annual pass because the parks were closed. So anywho, I think we had purchased them 2-day or 3-day park hopper passes. We had to upgrade those to annual passes knowing that we had several more trips planned. And so that cost for this trip was $2,200 roughly, give or take a few dollars. And then food, we try to budget about $200 for food and souvenirs per day. We share meals, especially like at breakfast. If we're eating in the resort, you can get like one of those big bounty breakfasts, and my husband and I can split that pretty easily. Kids get kids meals usually, which run $6 to $9 depending. And then again, I'm grouping souvenirs into this and we try to stay on budget. But I will admit that this part of the budget is the one where we tend to go over the most, because it's the least easy to kind of restrict. Like if you're in the park and you're hungry, you're gonna grab something to eat. If you're in the park and you're thirsty, you're gonna grab something to drink. So we do try to save money here as often as possible, but again, if there's going to be a place where we go over, this is going to be it. But on average, we try to budget about $200 per day. It's a 4-day trip, 3 nights, 4 days. It was about $800. So for the total of this trip, 4 days, 3 nights in the parks, we spent $5,474. Now I want to contrast this with the next trip that we took in December. That was the big family trip that we took for Christmas. In contrast to staying 3 days in a deluxe resort, we stayed, or 3 nights, we stayed 5 nights in a deluxe resort, this time at Beach Club. The difference being, instead of renting directly from Disney, we rented Disney Vacation Club points. We have talked about that 1,000 times on this channel, and I will forever sing the praises of doing this if you're wanting to stay in a deluxe resort and save some money. Let me tell you why. Whereas before we spent $2,324 for 3 nights at the Contemporary, this time we spent $1,540 for 5 nights at the Beach Club. Same type room, still a studio, but about an $800 savings for 2 extra nights. Okay, insane. Again, travel, $150 for gas. That goes without saying. Tickets, this time it was time for my husband and I to renew our annual passes. They expired in December, literally while we were on the trip, so we had to upgrade those, and that was $2,400. Annual passes right now are $1,249 plus tax. And when you renew, you get a 15% off renewal discount. So it was about $2,400. food this time, 5 nights, 6 days. We budgeted $1,200, and we did use Genie Plus on this trip. And for 2 days, for 4 people, it was $120. So the total for this trip was $5,390. That was about $100 less for 2 extra nights, again, compared to buying or renting directly from Disney. And I know these numbers are outrageous. I get that. But again, this is for informational purposes only. You decide how you want to spend your money. We'll decide how we want to spend our money. Now, in contrast, the last trip that I'm going to talk about is the one that my daughter and I have upcoming here in the next couple of weeks, or have just come back from, depending on when we release this video. And it's just my daughter and I. She wanted to take a girls trip, and I'm all about that. So, and Auntie can't come because Auntie is getting more and more pregnant, and it is becoming less and less comfortable for her. So it is just going to be Melanie and I, and we are staying at Pop Century for 3 nights. So we decided to go with a value resort, our favorite value resort, close to the Skyliner. The rooms are nice. It's small-ish depending on where you stay. So that's where we're staying. We would have probably rented DVC, but there was no availability given that this was kind of a last minute trip. We just planned it about a month ago, if even that long. So the cost for this hotel, 3 nights, is $795. And again, if you need convincing as to why we believe in renting DVC points, that is almost the same as staying at the beach club. If you kind of break it down by per night. So if we were spending $1,540 for 5 nights, you're looking at about $300 a night. And now we're at $800 for 3 nights, which is about $250, $260. So for an extra $30, $40 a night, we could have stayed at a deluxe resort versus staying at a value resort. So again, just putting that out there. Now the difference in this trip versus the other trips is I hate driving. So my husband and I decided that we would splurge and Melanie and I would fly. So we are flying Allegiant, which is of course one of the discount airlines. We looked at a couple of local airports around us. The cheapest one is Asheville, actually North Carolina, as opposed to Greenville here in South Carolina, which would have been, I don't know, about 10 minutes closer to our house. And so it is going to cost Melanie and I $400 to fly. And Allegiant flies into Sanford Airport in Florida. It doesn't fly into MCO, which is the one that's closest. Therefore, there's no, like, Magical Express doesn't exist anymore, but there's no bus service. So we could get an Uber, but we didn't feel super comfortable with that. So we've decided to rent a car. And so I'll just be driving us to and from the airport there in Florida. And the car rental for the 4 days, 3 nights is going to be around $275 to $300. So I put $675 total in our travel budget on this trip. So significantly more expensive. And I'm gonna say too, Allegiant, you know, they kind of nickel and dime you, even though they're one of those discount airlines. So we are choosing not to have a checked bag. We are not having a carry-on bag. We purchased personal item bags that are the exact dimensions that Allegiant allows. And we're gonna, since it's only 3 nights, you know, kind of minimize our packing and how much we take down there and how much we bring back. So obviously our souvenir budget is gonna be very low because we can't fit anything in unless I buy a pair of ears and wear them back on the plane, which I mean, maybe, who knows. So we are only budgeting $500 for food. It is 4 days, 3 nights, but there's only 2 of us, so I've reduced it just a little bit. Again, it's the one where we go over the most, so I'm just kind of being careful there. And then for tickets, $0. Our annual passes cover our entry into the parks. We don't plan on using Genie Plus this time since it's just her and I. So our total for this 3rd trip is $1,970. And again, that's for 3 nights, 4 days. We're doing 3 days in the parks. If our flight had been earlier on that Friday that we're coming in, we would probably try to hit 4 days in the parks. But we're just not able to because the flight doesn't get in until 7:30. With driving to the resort, we won't even get in until probably 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So we're just not able to do that. But so 3 days in the parks, 3 nights, $1,970. So I hope that this information kind of gives you a little bit more understanding of the cost. We understand that Disney World vacations are not cheap. They are not budget vacations. There are ways that you can save money on them, but the cold hard numbers just kind of show you that it's going to be a little bit pricey, and you just have to, we again have put out many videos and blog posts about how we save money for vacations, how we save money on vacations, but just full transparency, this is how much we're spending as a family of 4. It again will vary depending on the members of your family, how you budget, how you decide to go. And again, there are various times of the year where it costs more, where it costs less, but this, I hope, gives you a little bit more information for yourself. Should you be thinking about going, if you can use one of our trips to kind of compare to, okay, well, this is how much she spent for this amount of time, then again, I hope that this helps you in some way. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.